Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 187 of Thrive by Additive-Free Lifestyle. We are Tracy and Jo, and we're two sisters who are very passionate about asking questions and seeking information for things that make you curious. And that is something we are going to talk about on this show today as I interview Jo on her gut health journey. But before we get there, Thrive is a podcast show that will help you lower your toxic load, guide you through various stages of life, and give you permission to ask questions and seek advice on topics that you may not yet understand. Today's episode is brought to you by our Additive-Free Lifestyle app that can be found on all major app stores. Download it today to create family meal plans, easy shopping lists, and have handy access to additive information. Okay, Jo, this is a story on your gut health journey. And I know it's been a very long journey. So my first question to you is, what made you look at gut health in the first place?
Oh, it has been a long journey and it will continue to be a long journey. I think this is going to be something that I will live with for the rest of my life. What initially got me thinking about gut health was all the work that we do, to be honest, everything that we have learned over the last 9 years of running Additive-Free Lifestyle, and just talking about things that we've spoken about on this podcast show before, which has made me think, oh, maybe my gut health isn't great. Like, even though I'm additive-free, I'm low-tox around the house, I live what I would think a very healthy lifestyle, how could it be my gut health? But maybe it is, maybe it's not, I don't know. So that's kind of what got me thinking, really.
So what sort of symptoms did you have that you knew were linked back to gut health in some way, shape or form?
Okay, so it's a bit of a long story, but to go back in time for a very, very, very long time, I have had really bad stomach issues. So gut health isn't about just your stomach. Gut health is actually your whole body. But I have had stomach gut issues. I have had extreme bloating, fatigue, really sore stomach. I haven't been able to put a hand on there, or even when my husband goes to give me a cuddle, I never wanted him on my stomach. I'd put his hand on my rib cage. Intense bowel pain. I've actually fainted before twice on the toilet floor from extreme bowel pain. And over the years, this is before we started Additive-Free Lifestyle, before we started any of this, I would go to a GP. They would tell me to drink more fiber drinks, get Metamucil into me, more water, exercise, and I did have a colonoscopy at one point as well. The colonoscopy brought up some polyps, but at the end of the day, nothing was really wrong. And I was pretty much told to live with it. I was pretty much told, this is who I am, and you just need to manage it with your fiber drinks and you'll be right, type of thing. And so,
Right.
yeah. And I'm talking intense pain and bloating, something was wrong. And
do you think as a society we've become very accustomed to what has become very common rather than what should be actually normal?
I think it's better now than it was 15 years ago. I think that we now have more education, and I think that we now, maybe it's only because I'm in this space that I feel like this, but there's definitely more education than there was when we started Additive-Free Lifestyle 9 years ago. So I do feel like if I go back 15 years when I had these intense pains and fainting on the floor, etc., I didn't know anything about gut health. My GP didn't say anything about anything. There wasn't the whole sort of approach and looking deeper into it. So I don't really know, Trace. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of how I feel. So, yeah.
I feel like things have become really common, so then they're actually standardized as normal when they're not necessarily normal.
Yeah,
and
look,
I think
a lot of us tell ourselves that that's who we are as well. And I certainly told myself that, oh, well, this is who I am. I just need to live with it. And I did. And I lived with it. I really did. And it wasn't until, like I said, that I learnt more, where I thought, actually, maybe this isn't normal. Like maybe I could fix this. So
Mm.
so that's kind of what led me on the path. And look, over the years, once we started this lifestyle, I have been on and off gluten. And I thought maybe gluten's the culprit, and I'd go off gluten, I'd start to feel better, and then I'd have some gluten, and then I'd be like, oh, that didn't affect me. Oh, I'll just eat more, and I'll just eat more. And then it would come back. So I'd go off gluten, and I'd just live on this on and off gluten cycle for a really, really, really long time. So it wasn't until the end of 2019 was when I actually really, really looked into it. But I don't even know if you knew how busy we were in 2019, but
Oh, I knew how busy we were.
I
It was
did.
a manic year.
I went through the photos on my phone. So to give people a snapshot of our 2019, we had one very, very crazy year. So at the end of 2018, on the 23rd of December, our mum got diagnosed with leukemia. She literally went from the specialist appointment to the hospital, and that's pretty much where she stayed for quite some months. So at the start of 2019, we had a mum in hospital getting treated for leukemia. My kids were in prep and year 2, so I had the whole mum life juggle going on as well. Lucky Shane worked with Additive-Free Lifestyle at the time and was home. So January, that was when Tassie suffered those horrific bushfires. Now, although that we weren't personally affected, there was a lot going on, and our nervous system was like fired up. These bushfires were really, really, really bad.
Mm. I
Then
remember we held a few, like we had held a few days where we put together not welcome packs for people who had been displaced out of their homes and different things. So we did, whilst we weren't personally affected, we certainly did things that could help our community out. So that was, just adding on to that stress layer.
Oh, I know. Like we really tried to run some charity events and tried to do all that we can. Absolutely. And I'm going to try and go through this quickly because there's a whole lot that went on behind the scenes of everything we did in 2019. Like every single day was manic. So in February, we had come second place in the doTERRA incentive trip, and we'd won a trip to Vietnam. And we questioned about going because Mum was so sick, but she really wanted us to go. So we went. And although it was an amazing trip, we really were worried about Mum the whole time, and I just sort of couldn't wait to get back. So we threw in a trip to Vietnam in February, and you got to remember, in and out of the hospital, working full time. We still had our store, and we were in the office in Moona there, and we're in the store every day working, getting orders out, etc., advertising orders, all the rest of it. I know in February we also held kids workshops and all the rest. March was gangbusters. We were really busy with work, and I actually booked Shane and I and the kids onto a cruise so that I could get away and have no Wi-Fi. So that was booked prior to Mum getting sick. But anyway, we went, and cruises are not for us. We didn't like it at all, at all. In April, we flew up to Byron for another doTERRA trip for a Diamond Day. And this was the month we came really close to losing Mum. She went really south with a bleed on the brain and was diagnosed terminal that month. Then we're still running, pumping a business, and we started, on top of everything, writing our cookbook. So
let's just write a book.
Yep. We started writing every day Additive-Free, and we're holding webinars, doing all the rest. In May, we flew to Sydney, and we spoke on stage at the doTERRA conference in front of 4,500 people. So of course we're getting our presentation ready, flying out. And the day before we flew out, Mum got diagnosed that the chemo had worked really well and that she was in remission and out of hospital. So that was amazing. June was full blown into our book. July, we flew up to the Gold Coast and we were on stage at doTERRA Leadership. September, we flew to Melbourne and we presented at the Osmopreneur Awards, and we won first place in Making a Difference category. We held more workshops and getting things ready for all of these events. Then in October, we held our own very first Additive-Free Lifestyle Wellness Day event. And we went all out on this event. It was an all-day event in Hobart. We had amazing speakers, excellent food. We had people fly in from all over the country to attend. Like, it was a big deal for us and our business. We put a huge amount of effort into it. So not only did we... Oh, it was so good. We need to do another one. Not only did we do that in October, but we also released pre-sale for our book that we'd spent all year writing. 161 recipes in that book. Like, we started our books like with a bang. We bit off way more than we could chew.
We bit off way more than we can chew.
But not only all of that happened in October, we also spoke on stage at the doTERRA event that they held in Hobart. Then a couple of days after that, in November, we flew to Guatemala and went on the doTERRA sourcing trip. And we chucked in a 3-day little holiday in Mexico City. So
it was amazing.
It was amazing, but we were done. I know I was, speaking from me personally, I was absolutely stuffed. And I was so dark. I was so sick. I was overweight. I was bloated to the extreme, stressed, tired. I was empty, dead empty. But kept on pushing because in December, we had a little family holiday up in Queensland because Shane's father was in very, very final stages of bowel cancer and incredibly sick. So we came up here for Christmas, flew back to Hobart in January, then flew out the next weekend to Melbourne and signed 1,000 copies of our cookbook.
Which we will never do again.
No, started posting them out. But wait, there's more. In February, we held between us 32 workshops all around the east coast of Australia, from Townsville to Melbourne to Adelaide and everywhere in between. So, yeah, you can imagine, right? So by March, I was done. Super, super sick. Super sick. Like, so to get everyone a rundown on gut health and how bad, like, this is my defining moment, actually. This is where I was like, I have to book in with someone because I'm actually sick. Like, worked myself into the ground, nervous system shot, not sleeping. And these are the symptoms that I was experiencing. Actually, to go back a little bit, this isn't when I booked in for my appointment. I thought, I'll just try and sort of do this on my own. Like, I feel rotten, but, you know, I can give this a go. And so I started walking, and I forced myself out of the house on my own, hopefully, to start walking. And I walked every single day. I took an umbrella if it rained. I got all my winter gear, a sumo suit on if it was freezing cold, and I went. And I started, in the end, like after a few weeks, maybe even a month, calling it my therapy time. And the kids were allowed to come, but only if they didn't argue, didn't like distract me. You know, like, I really needed this time every single day just to myself. And it was life-changing, this walking time. And sometimes I'd only go for 15 minutes if that was all I could fit in. But I really did try to do sort of half an hour just every single day. So that was an absolute game changer. And I knew, like, obviously, but I knew that I was turning 40 at the end of the year. And I thought, I really have to just get healthy and just be the best version that I can be. That was the year that COVID hit. So lockdowns happened in Tassie, and thankfully we didn't have a very long period of time in lockdown. But I actually needed that time at home. Like, we'd just been so intensely traveling that to be forced to sort of stay at home for those few weeks that we had in Tassie, and I'm sorry for people listening that had a lot longer than that, because I know it was horrific, but it was like good to connect with the family again and just stay at home. So personally, I needed that, which actually helped me a lot. And I started to get better. And I really did start to the bloating started to go down. I just started feeling better. But then as things happen, you start to feel better. And by the time I had my 40th in November, I was great. And then what did I do in December? I was like, I'm all healed. Let's do it. Gluten, let's eat. Christmas, have some alcohol. Like, like I just started, it'll be fine. No, it wasn't fine at all because I just went downhill again. And that was when I thought I have to book in with someone and get the professional help that I need.
So who exactly did you book in with? And like what sort of, because you'd been to a GP, like you'd seen health professionals, you'd seen people. So what made you book in with Benedict?
Yep. Okay. So yes, I had certainly been to lots of GPs. They did celiac tests at GPs, which always came up negative as well. And so I knew I didn't want to go down the GP route. I knew I had to go to someone else. Ali, which is Benedict's wife, actually spoke at our Wellness Day event. And I knew that Ali focused a lot on hormones and Benedict focused a lot on gut health. They both focus on gut health. But anyway, I booked in with Benedict and yeah, I just invested the money. Like I just
So
was
what
like,
sort of testing did he do that was different to what a GP does?
okay, I'll go over that. But first, like I've always sort of had the attitude of, oh, so much money. Like it's, I can't afford that or all these excuses. But at the end of the day, I said to myself, if I don't spend the money now, I'm going to be living the rest of my life in pain. And I'm going to not be the best version of myself that I can be. I'm 40 years old. Sort your shit out, Joe. That's pretty much what I said to myself. So what he did was his consultation, I think was an hour and a half. It might have been an hour, but it was a really long time. And prior to that, I had this massive survey that I needed to fill out as well. Everything was so thorough. And he did, I've got some notes here. He did a range of blood tests that he wanted me to get done. So I had to go to a GP to get that script to get the blood test done or the
So just to go back,
pathology
stop
before.
you there, because
Yeah.
I don't think you meant Benedict's a clinical nutritionist, just for those people that are not understanding who Benedict is or what he does. So yes, he's a clinical nutritionist who has a degree in it's like natural medicine or something like that. Like, so
Yeah.
he really knows his stuff. Yeah. So he's not just
Yeah.
some random Benedict who Joe saw.
And we're not sponsored to promote him, but he really has changed my life and so many others. We'll put his details all in the show notes so you can find his details in there. And I'll share that link with you at the end. So he, I needed to get bloods done. And I had to go, when I went to the GP, I'm like, I need these bloods done. She goes, no, you don't. I was like, yes, I do. She goes, no, you don't need all of them done. I was like, can I please get all of them done? Like, look, I don't think it's worth getting this one and this one. It just absolutely put me down. But I'm glad that I stood my ground and was like, look, my nutritionist has said that I need to get these done. Can you please write them on the form? And I would like to get them done. Oh, okay. So I'll just go on. And then he got stools tested as well. And he started me on a range of supplementations as well. And I'm not going to tell you what supplements I went on because we're all different and what works for me might not work for you and vice versa. And you need to actually book in and get your own stools tested and your own bloods done to get your results so that you can then go on the right supplementation. I'm really passionate about that because sometimes, and I've done it before, we look at people online and we're like, oh, they're taking that might work for me. Well, it might not. It actually could be worse because probiotic food was my worst enemy and I was eating yogurt every single day. And I was drinking kombucha, homemade kombucha, thinking, great, gut health, awesome. No, it was actually doing me a lot of damage. So this is why it's important to get your results. So some things that had happened by the end of that year was I developed eczema behind my knee and I'd never had any type of eczema in my whole life. All my nails went really, really brittle and completely cracked off. And I normally have beautiful, strong nails, and they were just like, it was like a glass breaking, like they just completely shattered. And I was beyond tired. I was more tired than I've ever been in my life. Like I just had days where I just did not want to get out of bed. And if it wasn't for work and children, I would have stayed in bed all day, beyond tired. So what he decided to do was, put me on the supplements and take me off gluten, dairy, and sugar and fermented foods, and lots of fiber in my food, bone broth daily, organic meat and wild caught fish, and spray-free fruit and veg.
Mm-hmm.
And the results that came back from my stools was that my E. coli was really low. It was 5 times lower than it should have been, which was really strongly related to fatigue and even like chronic fatigue levels. So that explains why I was so tired. And there was other results that came back, but just to give you one more, was the other result was my lactose lactose. So normally this bacteria is under 5%, and mine was 88.8%. So it was actually 560 times higher than it should have been, which was a
Wow.
huge reason why I was so bloated all the time, because my body couldn't digest food.
Right.
Mm.
Gut health is so interesting. It's so
Mm-hmm.
interesting. And I really, really, like Joe, encourage people to look into it more just for general health. Like you might not be bloated and suffering all sorts of horrendous health issues. Doesn't matter. You should understand what your gut health is, and you should understand how to keep it just thriving along, just healthy, just happy. Because
Mm-hmm.
if it goes out of whack, then you'll know that it's out of whack. Because you'll understand it. Like in being in tune with our body is so, so important.
Oh,
All
I
right.
just
So,
wish I had done this a long time ago. So what he actually had realized after the appointments with him and going through a lot of history was that I've had gut health issues for probably 20 years, since my early 20s. And we stemmed it back to when I spent a good amount of time partying and not looking after myself at all. I had a great time, but I really did damage my health, and I had a lot of tonsillitis. And so therefore I was on a lot of antibiotics, and I had my tonsils out when I was 24. So he's kind of stemmed it back to when I was 24. And then kind of like layering on the gluten and layering on the toxins that I was using in my house and layering on everything since I killed my gut health at 24. So my gut health never was repaired from those days, and it just got worse as I got older. And and then when I went into additive-free lifestyle and learning about everything and changing over to low-tox and healthy eating, one of the reasons why the probiotic food and the yogurt was not working for me was because that lactose bacteria was so high. So every time I was eating that, I was actually feeding it, and I was doing myself more damage. And so without those results, I would never have known.
Yeah. It's really important to dive deep. And that's one of the reasons like we wanted to bring this podcast show back as well, was because it's becoming curious. We need to be more and more and more curious so that we get to the bottom of things and finding the root cause. And so I will give you full permission. I know Joe will be giving you full permission throughout this podcast show, all of our episodes, to ask more questions. And if you have a GP that says something to you like, you don't need that, or I don't think that this is right, but you've had someone else say it, or you think it is right. And I know with thyroid, there's many times that I've questioned my GP now. Wouldn't have done it 20 years ago though. But please ask more questions. Please dive deeper, do more research yourself, and please look into things, because like Joe's just explained, it is so, so important that we dive really deep into things when we know that it's not normal to feel this way. It is not. It might be very common, but it is not normal. And we need to really pay attention to that.
Absolutely. And what is happening now is because as a society, most of us have poor gut health. A lot of us have lived with toxins, antibiotics, whatever it might be, for a long period of time. We've learnt to live with the symptoms. It's our new normal. And then we have babies. We're passing our poor gut health onto the next generation. 1 in 5
Yeah.
children suffer with eczema. Asthma is like 1 in 9, I
I
think.
don't even know if it's more common. It's really
Might be
common.
more common than that. And I'm not saying it's all because the mothers passed on their poor gut health to their children. I'm not saying that, but I am in a way also saying that as well. Like, we can produce better offspring if we were healthier as well, but we don't know that. Like, I wish I
Mm.
knew what I know now when
Oh.
I was pregnant. Like,
Oh,
it would have
absolutely.
been a game changer for my
Absolutely.
children. Both my
Oh
children
my
have had
gosh.
asthma. Both my children have also had gut health issues themselves as well, and they're just little kids. So we only know
The
what
other
we
thing
know,
with
though.
Exactly. I was going to say the other thing with gut health is it's directly linked to our brain health, and a lot of people aren't aware of that either. So our gut and brain are very, very connected, and like intimately connected. And when our gut health is out of whack, our brain health can be out of whack. So think stress, fatigue, all the things that Joe's just mentioned is really common for her and became her normal, and also be very heavily linked to our gut health. And there's numerous studies out there now saying depression is also linked to gut health. So imagine a world where every GP prescribed exercise, vitamin D, sunlight, really great healthy food. And I'm not talking kale and, those things. I'm not putting those things down either, but good, nutritious, preservative, additive-free, chemical-free, spray-free, like get rid of these toxins that are damaging our gut health and really thrive and get to the root cause of so many things. The other thing I wanted to mention, Joe, was you lived the whole of 2019. We both did to some degree with mum in fight and flight mode. We were in that high state of stress, cortisone producing mode for a lot of that time. And yes, we had some downtime and some fun things, trips to Guatemala and all of those things, but there's a lot of that came with a lot of stress too. And again, gut brain connected. So our fight and flight stress is poor sleep, bad skin, all of these things that you've just described, bloating, everything.
Yeah. Oh, stress is just the number one killer. It wrecks everything in your body. And I have to manage that every day. As I'm recording this, we've just moved up to Queensland, and the last 3-4 months probably has been fight and flight for me. Packing up a house, selling a house, moving, living in a caravan, buying a house. I'm still unpacking, painting. Like, it's been fight or flight. And I can feel my gut health now. It's down. Like, my energy levels are down. I kind of can't speak sometimes. I get to the end of the day and I actually don't know what I'm doing. Like, it's like I live in this other little land in my head. It's like, I don't know. I don't know what you're saying. Like, that's how I feel. Like, I don't know. Like, I can't make decisions. And it's my gut health. I have stopped with the bone broth. I've stopped with like things that make me happy. I've stopped relaxing. I've stopped eating as well as I normally do. And I'm like, right, I need to get back into that because I've been on this journey for so long. I now know what affects me, and you can too. Like, this is the thing. It's never too late. And I just want to really drum that into the people listening, that no matter where you are, it's never too late. You can get the help because the help is there, but you have to get it.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't easy. It was like, gut health repair takes a really, really, really long time. Like, it's not a quick pill. And you're going to need to be really committed for months and months and months on end. But I promise you, when you come out the other side, you feel amazing. And there's nothing better. Like, I've never felt today, I don't feel the best that I've ever felt in my life, because again, I'm not back to square one, not by any means of the stretch. But when I was at my peak, oh, I'm like, holy shit, is this actually how you are meant to feel? Because I've never felt like this my whole life. But it's amazing.
Ah, the good feelings, the good feelings. So
Yeah.
again, this podcast is about giving you guys listening the permission to seek more advice, ask more questions, get curious on topics that you don't yet understand. So if gut health is something that you think and you've resonated with today and you're like, there's some things in this that like are resonating with me, then please seek information on topics you don't yet understand. Please go and seek more. There's plenty of places that do short courses. There's plenty of help out there. Benedict and Ali are amazing, not sponsored at all, just amazing human beings. So please, please, please go and ask questions and get more curious about topics that, you think could be something that, might help you or your family. The other thing that I did want to just say there, Jo, was the word curious keeps coming up because that's, something we want this podcast to be about. But do you find it curious, and this is just a random thought that popped into my head, do you find it curious that people that are commonly stressed, so I'm going to pick on our mum, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's a stressful person. She lives in a stressful state a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that, and I don't have any science behind this, but that commonly stressed people are also a very, very poor gut health people? Do you think I wonder if there's a study out there about that?
Well, I think there are studies
I'm curious
out there
about that.
because, like I said before, like stress is the number one. It is the number one killer. It's like worse than passive smoking. And
because if I'm honest, I would put you if I had to name 5 things about you, apart from good things, but if I had to name 5 maybe negative things, if we were doing it that way around, I would put stressful in your category. Like I would say Jo's a pretty stressful person. She gets stressed really easily. And do you think that is because of your gut health?
possibly 100%. Yeah, it's something I need to manage every day. And I have been really proud of myself, like probably this last, even though there's been a lot going on, I was also training for a half Ironman as well. I actually managed it probably the best I've ever managed my life prior. And we also were building our app, and we also released our app as well during this time. And I only said to you just the other day, I actually haven't really been stressed about the app. Like, I feel like this is the first thing we've ever released where I've been like, it's all right. It'll be fine. Like I feel like,
will be.
Whatever. Like, I can't do anything about it. Like we had some tech issues, but what can I do? No point laying.
I think we need. Sorry.
I was just saying, no point laying in bed awake about it. So, and throughout the whole move, I really had the attitude of it'll all work out. It will all be okay. And it was, and it all worked out. So, yeah, look, I think definitely yes. My answer is yes, absolutely. And it's okay to be a stress head.
Odie's saying hi.
Oh, hi, I can't hear him. But, it's okay to be a stress head, but there's ways that you can manage it. And, because the worst thing that you can say to yourself is, I'm such a stress head, I'm never going to be able to get over it. And because I say those things to myself in the past as well, like, why am I like this? Like, why do I have to stress so much? Why is Tracy so laid back? I wish I was more like her. And you then stress more. So I think it's okay to give yourself permission to be who you are, but recognize it and then learn how to manage it.
Good advice. Yeah. Good advice. I think we need to do a whole episode on stress. So let's mark that down for something to do an episode on stress and managing stress. And then the tools that we have or that we have personally used to help manage stress as well, right? From essential oils all the way through to saunering, all the way through to literally doing nothing and laying and reading a book without any guilt.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, this episode can be found over on our website, additive-free-lifestyle.com/episode 187. And all the details for Benedict will be over there as well. And we've also got a downloadable for you as well, because bone broth was something that I needed to drink every single day. So we've put together our beef bone broth and our chicken bone broth recipe for you to download over there as well. So to get that, just go to that website, additive-freelifestyle.com/podcast 18.
No, episode.
Sorry. Episode. Let me start again. additive-freelifestyle.com/episode 187. So please leave a review on the podcast via the app that you're listening, Stitcher or Shopify. What's it called? Spotify. Or Apple. Just leave a review. We would love, love, love that. So thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.